And here we go. We have liftoff. Propulsion continues to be normal.
R68 chamber pressure looks good.
Doubling up. Roger, with planet.
Water towers fly! Yes!
Echo down to nominal.
Fighting down to ST off. Bring in ST off. It's orange!
R45! Oh my god! Oh my god!
Decollage. Put that in the big bag, Jingle.
343 unfolds to go.
Indeed.
We rise together, back to the moon and beyond.
If the methane would be igniting in the flare, correct?
Yikes. You bet. We don't need any more of these.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Cape Canaveral Space Force Station. You're looking at a live view of Falcon 9 perched on the launch pad here at Space Launch Complex 40 with a brand new crew access tower and crew access arm just to the left of it. But that's not too relevant today's mission because we're watching the launch of two SES O3b mPOWER satellites. Now, these are going to be internet satellites located in medium Earth orbit. We'll discuss more about those later. We're about 40 minutes out from launch here. And first off, I want to introduce some really talented folks I have alongside myself here in the studio. So first off, we have Alex Alejandro. Alex, how are we doing today?
I'm doing fantastic, and yeah, we're gonna have another launch of Falcon 9, but this time not a Starlink. I can't believe it's not a Starlink.
Yeah, it's like we're looking at a payload fairing on Space Launch Complex 40, and it's not a Starlink. Like, are they okay? I think we need to check in on SpaceX launch teams. But also we have Max Evans out in the field today. He's not going to be on commentary, but he is giving us these live views, these amazing crisp views of Falcon 9 here on the pad. Also in the studio, we have Patrick Cahoon and Gav Cornwell operating today. We have a bit of tandem operator training today, so some exciting things going on there. And I will be your host for this afternoon, Ian Atkinson. So right now we're below 37 minutes in the countdown up until today's launch. And Alex, real quick, do you want to kind of give us an overview of what the payloads are on today's mission? What is O3b mPOWER? It's a lot of weird capitalizations there.
Yeah, so O3b mPOWER is basically SES's own internet satellite constellation. It consists so far of 4 satellites that have been launched on 2 prior Falcon 9 missions. One happened in December of last year, and another one happened in April of this year. And so this is the 3rd mission for O3b mPOWER, which basically will carry another pair of satellites, the 5th and 6th, to a medium Earth orbit. So these satellites, it's not like, there are some internet satellites that are out there in geostationary orbit. There are others that are in low Earth orbit, like Starlink, but these ones are going to be in between, in medium Earth orbit. The sort of final orbit for these satellites, it is approximately an equatorial orbit at around 8,000 kilometers from Earth. However, Falcon 9 will not carry them all the way there. It'll carry them to some sort of a transfer orbit, as they call it, which will be approximately 2,800 kilometers by 7,000 kilometers in a 10-degree inclination orbit. So that's sort of the target orbit that Falcon 9 is targeting today, with all the redundancy there. And yeah, so this is pretty much what the payload is all about. What's sort of the expected target that they are wanting for this flight. But obviously, we have more things happening on this flight, and that is the return of the Falcon 9 booster. This is booster B1076 flying on its 9th mission. About 38 days of turnaround time that it has. It flew previously on CRS-26, OneWeb 16, Starlink 6.1, Intelsat 40E, Starlink 6.3, Starlink 6.6, Starlink 6.14, and Starlink 6.22. And it'll be landing on a shortfall of gravitas, approximately 685 kilometers downrange. And so if that happens, if that lands successfully, that'll be the 171st consecutive landing ever since the last failure to land. So that's a lot of landings.
Yeah, it really is. And I mean, it's funny how successful Falcon 9's recovery and reuse campaign has been, because when you mentioned it's the 9th mission, I was reading that ahead of time of the stream. I was just like, okay, it's the 9th mission of this rocket. When like 5 years ago, you would be like, what? Like, a rocket flying for a 9th time that's not the space shuttle. It's insane how commonplace this is, and it's really testament to the fact that reusable rockets are the future, and it's super exciting to see that in play here. We have some support coming in here. First off, thank you to everyone for always being here and helping support the streams with your super chats and gifted memberships. First off, we have a gifted membership from RC Horseman. Thank you for gifting one Red Team membership. Chris W has also gifted one Red Team membership, and Blushy Boy has gifted one Red Team membership. Josu here has become a Pad Rat member, so thank you for your support there, and we hope you enjoy those perks. JD Brown here with a $5 super chat saying, unlike expendable ULA rockets, why is there no smoke trail on reusable SpaceX rockets like the Falcon 9? I think they're discussing the exhaust plume. And I think that really comes down to, so for Atlas V with solid boosters are really sooty. They have very particulate exhaust. Whereas in comparison, kerosene boosters like Falcon 9 or Atlas V's core stage, those burn relatively clean. Of course, you get some soot, and that's why Falcon 9 is sooty now. But in comparison to solid boosters, kerosene is extremely clean when it burns. You do see a bit of a trail when it goes supersonic and towards the higher part of the atmosphere. The supersonic part is due to actual atmospheric effects on the rocket. And then as it gets higher up in the atmosphere, you'll see kind of the exhaust spread out in space because things get a bit wonky outside the atmosphere. But that's the basic reason of why you don't really see a plume for Falcon 9. Let's see here. Musical Wolves with a $5 super chat saying, not a Starlink. Are the 4 towers shocked with surprise? I would say no, because, Alex, there are 5 towers now. And that's, I feel like, do we need to change the meme, or can we just keep saying the 4 towers? I don't know how to proceed here, really.
Well, there are 4 towers that do the same, right? It's that 5th that does something different, right? That's the crew access tower. And with the crew access arm that you can see there up top, and will be used for crew missions and cargo missions for SpaceX's Dragon vehicle. So hopefully we see that being used real shortly, but definitely a new one here for, at least for this perspective, because for other launches we have had coverage from another place that has it right in between us and the Falcon 9. So it's been a bit of a tricky view there, but this one is a different perspective.
Gotcha. And actually, talking about that crew tower, we do have a question here from John Dopeker with a $10 super chat. I'm going to pass this right back over to you, Alex. John here is asking, are they going to clad the tower at Slick 40 in black like 39A? I mean, we don't see any indications either way, Alex. Like, it's been really recently built, would you say?
Yeah, and also, it all comes down to whether they need it or not. I think for 39A, for example, the cladding also acts as a protection system for the tower. Because if you remember, 39A launches Falcon Heavy. That is a quite heavy rocket. And so I can imagine that being something useful when you have such a powerful rocket launching next door. From here, from Slick 40, though, it's only Falcon 9. So perhaps maybe they don't need the cladding on this tower. But either way, we're just going to figure it out sooner rather than later.
Yeah, that's really, and keep your eyes out. Watch our Starlink streams as they come out. So yeah, thank you for the support there, John. We appreciate that. Blushy Boy has gifted another Red Team membership. Thank you for your support there. Bob Johnson has become a Pad Rep member, and Scott Doyle has gifted 1 Red Team membership. So thank you to all of you for your support and giving back to your community. Snot Garden here with a $10 super chat, simply saying they always enjoy our coverage. Thanks so much. Well, thank you, Snot Garden. We appreciate that, and thank you for your support. Let's see, TerraSpace here has become has hit their 8-month Red Team member milestone, and they're asking us, why did SpaceX make a different, more supported tower structure, and why is it taller than Falcon 9? So I guess, why is it a different structure than 39A? And I mean, Alex, it comes down to, this is just what they needed. I mean, 39A's tower was built for Apollo. It was built for the Saturn V. Then it was torn down, shortened a bit, added for the shuttle, and now SpaceX has just had to work with that. But they don't need a big of a tower, right, Alex? They just built what they really need here.
Yeah, and obviously when they ask why is it taller than Falcon 9, well, you kind of need it to be a little bit taller, and then sort of in the top portion of the tower you have that crew access arm. Kind of makes sense that it is like that. That is a bit taller, not a huge amount of tallness, I guess. Like it's not really that much taller than the Falcon 9, but it is a bit, just so that they're able to put that crew access arm near the top of the tower. And so, it's just basically how it needs to be. It doesn't need to be any taller or any shorter or any bigger or any larger.
Gotcha. Sounds about right to me. We're going to take a break right now from the support that we're getting. Of course, we're always super thankful for that, but we want to kind of transition back over to the launch that we're looking at right now. So, like Alex mentioned before, we have 2 satellites on board this mission today, 2 O3b mPOWER satellites. You can see them there in the fairing. They're pretty wide, but in terms of the fairing volume, they're very short. And again, this is because they're going to medium Earth orbit, so you need a bit more vehicle performance to get higher up with these satellites. Again, there are going to be around 13 of these satellites launched. There were supposed to be 11, but there have been a lot of electrical issues happening. This has actually been an issue plaguing a lot of satellites, including some geostationary satellites over the past few months, and these satellites are no exception. So because of limited power available on the satellites, they're not getting the bandwidth throughput that they need. So they're going to need to launch an extra 2 satellites to bring it to a total of 13 in this constellation. That's been a very recent announcement. I don't think they've announced a launch vehicle, but given that it's another pair, it's pretty much certain it's going to be Falcon 9. But with that aside, those are the 2 satellites we're looking at today. Again, launching a pair of these at a time. This is the 3rd pair of those satellites, and those are enclosed on the payload fairing up top there.
And these are manufactured by Boeing, by the way. So it's a bit of a thing here that there's always these sort of criticisms against Boeing because of the Starliner issues. But then they build also satellites, and now the satellites are also having issues. It's like, oh, come on.
Yeah, it's not been a really good year for satellites in general. I mean,
Yeah.
Viasat-3 has been having many issues. The mission extension vehicles, which their purpose is literally to extend satellites' lives, are beginning to lose their lives as well. I believe it's more power issues with them as well. So it's a very tricky year, and it's kind of coming back to bite these manufacturers. But hopefully this trend dies out. I mean, this is not a good trend that you want, and it's an unfortunate time that we're seeing here. Now, looking back at the launch vehicle, you can see propellant loading is well underway. You can see a bit of condensation coming off around the center part of the vehicle there. That is from the liquid oxygen tank. So as liquid oxygen is loaded into the vehicle, because it is so immensely cold, around negative 190 Celsius, I believe, because it's so cold, it literally freezes the water humidity in the air onto the side of the vehicle. And that is that condensation you're seeing there, as that ice kind of sublimates into gas. Basically, to put that in more English terms, imagine on a humid day a cold glass of water, but on steroids. You can think of it like that. Let's see here. Mark here is asking, is there a chance that we will see a Falcon 9 Block 6? Alex, we've heard a lot of upgrades coming on Block 5. Any indications of a Block 6, or is it just going to be a lot of little tweaks coming along?
Yeah, I don't think Block 6 per se is gonna happen. I think it's more likely that they're just gonna continue looking for optimizations of the Block 5 variant. We've already seen, for Starlink missions, they try to, load a little bit more propellant here and there, run the engines a little bit more higher throttle settings. So, it's a bit of a thing here that a Block 6, it's very likely to happen, and rather have little improvements here and there for Block 5. That's more likely.
Gotcha. Sounds about right. I mean, we've seen with Starlink launches, they're getting they can add a new satellite on there every few months. It's maybe like once or twice a year they can add an extra satellite onto the stack, just because they could just squeeze little bits of more power out of the vehicle. It's really interesting to see that. Let's see. Bren D. Oh no, Bren D. here is asking if Max were on comms, there'd be quite an argument here. But what MVAC nozzle do we have today? I mean, I assume since it's going to a higher orbit, you need that performance. We probably will not have a stubby MVAC here. I don't think we have any confirmations. But what are your thoughts, Alex, based on the Falcon 9 launch history?
Yeah, we don't have confirmation, but I will bet my hair that they're not gonna launch with a stubby nozzle here. Because, yeah, that, for example, yesterday from Vandenberg, they had the Transporter 9 mission. And that one, they carry a lot of satellites. They carried 113 on that one. But every satellite is small. It's maybe a few dozen kilograms, maybe. There's a couple of them that are a little bit larger, but overall the payload mass is probably not more than maybe 3 or 4 tons to low Earth orbit. That is to a low Earth orbit, which is fairly close to Earth. And so they could do even RTLS with the stubby MVAC nozzle. Now for this one, it is probably also in the neighborhood of 3 to 4 tons to orbit. Now the difference here is that orbit is much higher. So you need a bit more oomph on the rocket, and so that means needing a bit more performance. And so instead of coming back to land, the booster is going to go to the drone ship, and the second stage will most likely 99.99% sure I am of the fact that the MVAC nozzle is going to be just the normal one instead of the stubby one. I will see. We'll figure it out
Gotcha.
soon.
Thank
In
you,
maybe
Alex.
25 minutes.
Yeah. So as you can see on your screen, propellant loading is well underway. It looks like we're almost halfway full on the first stage liquid oxygen tank. Now, one thing that's really good about this shows that SpaceX is ready to go at the opening of the window. Seemed to be a little bit of rain and it's very windy out there. I mean, you can see the camera. That's not Max shaking. That is the wind blowing the camera around. He reported that there were white caps on the ocean today. So pretty nasty out there today. So yeah, it's good to see that we're going at the opening of the window today. Again, this is an 89-minute launch window, so if they chose to hold fuel loading, they could have waited 89 minutes, but now the fact that they are in propellant loading, they have no opportunities for a scrub and a recycle today. Let's see, what else do we got here in the queue? James Haig here is asking, Alex, I don't know if we have any numbers on this, but how much does a Falcon 9 fairing half weigh? What is the mass of a fairing half, or do we not know that?
Well, I think I maybe remember back in the day it was about maybe 900 kilograms per half at one point, but probably with all the recovery hardware might be a little bit heavier each one. So might be about a metric ton, I will say. So that's probably about right. It's heavy. It's not really because there's, for example, I'm reminding me right now of the ULA fairing for Atlas. It is larger, but I think it's about the same mass. And the reason I think it is because it's thinner. This one is actually a bit thicker, and so it is a bit thicker of a fairing. So it's more massive, basically.
Gotcha. Yeah, and it's really interesting that each half only weighs 1 metric ton, because inside that fairing you can hold a city bus, no problem. That is a massive amount of space in there. And the fact that you can get that down so low is thanks to, advanced material science. These are made out of carbon composite materials, so very lightweight, very strong, and it allows it to be, not that heavy of a component. Again, helping to increase your launch mass to orbit.
And just because I mentioned the fairing, it is also going to be recovered. Bob is out there going to be grabbing the fairing halves. Because otherwise, if I had forgotten about any marine assets, probably Gav will have muted me by now. But yeah.
Oh yeah, I forgot we have our marine asset man here in charge of our stream production. So yeah, don't badmouth the ships. Oh, and speaking of marine assets and recovery,
we are 5 seconds from the T-minus 20-minute vent. Oh, look at that.
Beautiful.
And there's
Love
the
to
T-minus
see
20-minute
that.
vent. That is for the chill down of the lines to the second stage on the Stromback. So they need to basically put the things that are right now hot in a cold condition so that when cold things go through it, they don't turn hot. I guess that's the the short version of it. Flow a little bit of liquid oxygen through it. Yeah.
It's actually similar to the engine chill that we'll see further along in the countdown, when they begin to flow little bits of liquid oxygen through the engines to slowly chill them down. Now these, both the T-minus 20-minute vent and the engine chill, that's to prevent something called thermal shock. Alex briefly said it there, but basically you don't want to take something that's warm, so like a rocket out in the Florida sun, or I guess Florida clouds right now. You don't want to take that very warm thing, then put something very cold through there. You can very much weaken or even shatter components with that quick of a thermal change. Same with rocket engines. If they're warm right now and then you suddenly start flowing liquid oxygen through them, that could weaken them or fatigue them or even cause them to crack, and you do not want that on your rocket.
And then also the liquid itself, the cryogenic liquid, may turn into flash steam kind of thing,
Yep.
where it just instantly turns into a gas and increases the pressure inside of the container, inside the pipe, and it just breaks the pipe. And you don't want that to happen. That would be catastrophic. So definitely, if you do it this way, it is a good thing to remedy all of those problems.
Yes, and really quick to plug Starship. We know SpaceX has been doing a lot of iterating on the engine chill system for Starship. Now they have about 20 different engine chill lines coming out of Super Heavy. They've been really tweaking it between boosters, so it's kind of interesting to see that engineering happen in real time down in Boca Chica. Let's see, moving on in the queue as the T-minus 20-minute event is going along. John Dopeker has gifted 5 Red Team memberships. Thank you once again, John. You're very much a regular in the gifting community. Chris W. has gifted 1 Red Team membership as well. So I hope everyone who was gifted those memberships enjoys them, and be sure to say thank you to them in chat. Joseph here has become a Red Team member. Thank you, Joseph. And Dan Wigley here with a $5 super chat saying they're here on site in the stands with their dad. Can they get a shout out for their dad? Mark and I will. Mark and Dan, we hope you enjoy the launch out here. It's going to be a very, very nice liftoff. Max is saying he's very optimistic for this liftoff shot. So hope you all enjoy it. And then Richard here with a 20-pound super chat, the curly L's that Chris B loves when we say. Simply saying, best wishes to everyone at NSF. Your presentations are always first class. Well, thank you, Richard. We appreciate those nice words. I appreciate those nice words for sure. And thank you for your support towards the stream. Amiga Clone here is asking, so we discussed that these satellites are going into a medium Earth transfer orbit. They're asking at what altitude does medium Earth orbit start? So medium Earth orbit starts around 2,000 kilometers above Earth's surface, and it extends basically all the way towards geostationary orbit. It kind of depends on what source you're asking, but it starts at around 2,000 kilometers. So these are going well into medium Earth orbit at around 8,000 kilometers in altitude. Astro 3DI, I'm going to pass this off to you, Alex. They are asking if Starship begins to launch Starlink satellites next year, which personally I think and hope they should. Do you see less Falcon 9 launches next year than this year? Alex, do you think that they'll begin to ramp down Falcon 9 next year or just keep pushing?
They're actually going to keep pushing. And for the record, I also think that they're going to be keep pushing even when they start launching Starlinks on Starship, but I'll address that later. So Elon has already said that next year they're targeting 144 Falcon 9 launches. Well, not Falcon 9, but like overall across the Falcon family. So there are at least 2 Falcon Heavy launches scheduled for next year. And so I guess 142 Falcon 9s apart from that. So in total, 144. Basically 12 launches per month. And that is apart from Starship. So Starship is sort of like a different count in that record. So maybe the total of SpaceX launches next year might be 150. Who knows, right? But either way, that is a crazy amount of launches that they can do with Falcon in just a year. And I'm mostly sure that it's gonna keep going up as much as they can for at least the next couple of years, probably well into 2025 and 2026, because Starship, the first few flights, even if it launches a Starlink, it's maybe going to launch 50 at a time, 55. That is 2 Falcon 9 launches. That is basically a week of Falcon 9 launches. Whereas that Starship mission might be 1 every 3 months or so, because they're also going to be busy, trying out orbital refilling and HLS tests and things like that. They're going to be busy with other stuff. They're not going to be able to concentrate fully into deploying Starlink. So Falcon 9 will be there to take up that job for at least a few more years until once we see Starship going 50 and 100 times a year, then that's when you can retire Falcon 9 easily and be like, okay, well now Starship can take the load.
Yeah, and that just kind of brought up a question in my mind. Alex, do you think that they're ever going to hit 200 launches per year with Falcon 9?
Oh boy. I'm mostly sure they could, but that would be interesting. One of the things that I had in mind that was sort of my worry for next year was about the landing, because the drone ships could be eventually the holdup for a faster turnaround times. But turns out the other day SpaceX signed with well, basically they asked the FCC for a flight. Basically, they have these sort of licenses for each launch to get permission to be able to communicate with a Falcon 9 rocket. And there are 2 Falcon 9 FCC permits for 2 Starlink missions that consider an RTLS option. Basically, an RTLS, a return to landings to launch site for Starlink mission. So if they consider that already, and we're about to end 2023, I can say that they're probably gonna try and have Starlink missions that have the booster turning back and landing at the Cape, which will mean no need for the drone ship, and they can launch much faster, or combine, drone ship missions with RTLS missions. So we'll see what happens. It's definitely interesting.
That's going to be amazing to see. And another thing to consider too, next year or 2025 or whenever it happens, is Space Launch Complex 6 at Vandenberg coming online. That is going to be a basically clean sheet launch pad, and that honestly, that should be even capable of a higher launch rate than Slick 40, because SpaceX has learned so much from 39A, from 40, from Pad 4E out at Vandenberg. I can't wait to see the launch rate they're going to hit with Slick 6 and I don't know, the next year or two, whenever it happens to come online. So that's something else to keep in mind too. That's going to be really cool to see.
Can you imagine if they turn all of the Starlinks into RTLS and we have an RTLS every 3 days? That would be awesome.
I would not mind that at all, to be honest. That would really cut down on booster refurb times too, because you don't need to wait, the couple of days that it takes for the booster to get back, offload it, and port. That's going to be incredible. Let's see. Speaking of launch cadence, another question here from Robbie Rob here saying, how does SpaceX have such a high launch cadence from Pad 40 while the launch cadence from 39A is comparatively low? What is the difference between those 2 pads that enables this cadence? So, Alex, why is 39A such a low launch rate? What's holding it back?
Well, they have the fact that they have to basically change between different configurations. So right now you can see there that I think there's actually a crane right now working on the transporter erector, and what they're working right now is the last launch from LC-39A was a cargo dragon from LC-39A, and the next one will be Falcon Heavy with the X-37B space plane from the U.S. Space Force. And so they need to convert this launch pad from Falcon 9 and Dragon configuration to Falcon Heavy and fairing configuration, because the top of the Stromback is different for a Dragon mission than for a fairing mission. So that thing needs to be converted as well, and they also need to convert the hold downs, for example, basically the quick disconnects that connect to the boosters. They need to put that back. Basically, all of the stuff that is needed for Falcon Heavy needs to go in, and a few of the things for Falcon 9 might have to also go out. So you have all of that, conversion in between different configurations. 39A is a little bit more complicated because of that. We also have had 5 Falcon Heavy launches this year, so 4 so far, with a 5th coming up next month. They are already preparing for it. We also have had many Dragon missions as well. So that puts a toll in the amount of cadence that they can put here from 39A. Hopefully next year, now that they have 40 for Dragon missions, they can go back and forth and have maybe a Dragon mission from Slick 40 while they have a Falcon Heavy from LC-39A. That could be a thing, right? Once they have that activated from Pad 40, so they will be able to have more flexibility, and hopefully the launch cadence from 39A can go a little bit up.
Yeah, and then, of course, moving extra launches to Vandenberg when we have Slick 6 open. There's just so much possibility here that SpaceX is going to have with the extra tower at 40 and the new pad out west. It's going to be a really interesting year for Falcon operations, or next interesting 2 years, I guess. Betty Stratton here has become a Pad Rat member. Thank you for your support, and we hope you enjoy all the cool perks that come along with memberships. And Debbie Bruce here is also talking about their membership, saying that they joined this month to get access to the great picks from Jack, Sean, and company. They can't live without seeing them anymore. Well, yeah, there's a lot of great perks that come alongside memberships, some behind-the-scenes videos, some extra content, a lot of cool things happening for the supporters of today's live streams. Now we're getting down below T-minus 10 minutes in today's countdown. The next thing that we're going to be looking at here is going to be engine chill. That's going to start in around 2 minutes, T minus 7 minutes. That's going to be kind of the last major step before we get into final pre-launch preparations. At T minus 1 minute, things are going to start to get really fast as we get the flight computer doing final checks as it takes over the countdown. The tanks are going to pressurize up to flight pressure, and then 15 seconds later, SpaceX's launch director will verify that they are go for launch. That's all coming up in about 8 minutes or so. So we're just going to take a few more questions here. Alex, one thing that's really interesting to me, I guess that the pad, roadblock is further down the road here, because I'm seeing a lot of vehicles going in front of the camera here. It surprises me given, what's happening in frame right now. Is the roadblock, I guess, further down from here?
I believe so. I think that's basically where it usually starts. But I'm not fully sure. Definitely, this is nominal. I remember at the on previous launches from this location, at least I remember seeing other vehicles going around there. So yeah, I think that's pretty much what we will expect in terms of the closures. It can also be that they are part of the emergency operations team at the SLD 45, and so yeah, I don't think, because in that case they obviously themselves can be nearby.
Gotcha. Let's see. A question here from Astro3DI, a nice fun question saying, will there ever be a 5-core Falcon Super Heavy? Alex, do we think there ever will be?
Well, I don't think so.
I do agree.
They're developing Starship already for a super heavy vehicle. You already have super heavy, and Falcon 9 is not really at that point of modifying it so much that you have to add another 2 boosters.
Yeah, it seems to be just a little overkill. If they weren't developing Starship, then yeah, I could definitely see some further development of Falcon coming, like Falcon Super Heavy kind of thing, and maybe Dragon launching on Falcon Heavy. But it just seems like Starship will eventually just eat up that market eventually. Let's see. Alex, a question here from Clipsio here asking, is there a limit to drone ship weight? Will it sink if it has to carry a super heavy booster? Do we know if there is going to be a super heavy booster landing on a drone ship?
No, I don't think Super Heavy will land ever on a drone ship, for the simple reason that Super Heavy doesn't have legs. So the only way that you can land Super Heavy is if you have the legs outside of it. That is the chopstick arms on the launch tower. So yeah. But you can see there, for example, Falcon 9, you can see on the right hand of your screen, it has landing legs. So that it's a bit of an advantage to be able to land on a drone ship, don't you think?
Yeah, I think landing legs may help a little bit. And it's really neat how SpaceX has kind of moved from, landing legs. Early Starship renders did show them having some kind of landing legs on the booster, or landing, I guess, like pegs. I don't really know how to describe it, just like little stubs that they would land on or something. And yeah, it's neat how they've moved to a catch system, which still boggles my mind to think about, but it's probably going to work someday. And they're going to get a live shot there from Fleet Cam in Port Canaveral showing a Falcon 9 booster that freshly came back from port after going to space. That is going to have its legs either retracted or removed, depending on how they fared. I believe, is that 1058, Alex, or has that been already processed?
That is already processed. That is B1073 from the Starlink 627 mission.
Gotcha. That's incredibly sooty already. That's amazing to see. Yeah, that's a relatively new booster in terms of the Falcon, I guess, booster catalog. So very cool to see that. Let's see. Michael Geeb here saying stubby nozzle. There's been so many people insisting on stubby nozzles here. I think Max has kind of infected this community here with the stubby hype. I don't like it. Michael, we don't think there's going to be a stubby nozzle. There may be, but given the performance this vehicle needs, it's probably going to be a full MVAC nozzle on here. If anyone's confused here by what we mean when we say stubby, there are the Falcon 9 upper stage engine can have two types of nozzles: a full nozzle for full performance and thrust and efficiency, but it can also have a much shorter nozzle, which is a little less efficient, but also saves a lot of money on materials. The nozzles are made out of a niobium alloy, which is pretty rare. I think SpaceX is actually one of the largest purchasers of niobium in the world. So it's neat to see. That's why they have gone to a stubby nozzle on some missions that don't need the full performance. Just got a store ordered there in the upper right-hand screen from shop.nasaspaceflight.com. Someone has purchased a Flight 2 patch for the Starship mission. Very cool to see that. Once again, shop.nasaspaceflight.com is a great way to support the work that we do here. A wide variety of items are available from Starship to Falcon and everywhere in between.
Including a holiday merch as well.
Yes,
which I have already ordered.
Knitted sweaters, which is incredible for me to see. I love it so much, and Polly nailed those designs. So yeah, some beautiful Starship knitted sweaters. I think there's 4 options, Alex, right? There's 4 completely different designs. So if you have your Falcon 9 people, yeah, there we go. We have a Dragon sweater. We have some Starship sweaters, all in different colors, different sizes. We have from extra small to triple XL. So it should fit most people, which is great to see. Several different designs and colors. So I'm sure you'll find something that you love. I really love the Raptor one because it really kind of gives that Christmas tree vibe to it. And I know it's exactly what they were going for. That's I always love seeing that.
Yeah.
It does, right? The green nozzle really helps it. But yeah, once again, shop.nasaspaceflight.com, another great way to support. And anytime that you purchase something on the store, you will get a little flash card coming in the upper right-hand corner. And you can leave a store message as well to say hi to us on stream. Patrick Hackmeyer here has become a Pad Wrap member along with James Gerald Eckhart. Thank you to the 2 of you for that. We appreciate all of your support, and we hope that you enjoy all the perks that come along with your memberships. We have some awesome behind-the-scenes videos and pictures coming out, so be sure to keep your eyes out for that. Hello here with a 7-month Red Team membership milestone. They're saying Starship Heavy with 3 boosters and 1 Starship going to Pluto. That sounds even overkill for Pluto. I don't know about that, but that's a pretty awesome concept. And I would say if they do go ahead with that, they need to call it Starship Super Duper Heavy. That I will die on that hill. I really like that name, and I will trademark that.
So right now you can see the vent on the Stromback has come back. That indicates the wrap up of the liquid oxygen load on the second stage. That means Falcon 9 is now fully loaded with propellants for the launch in just 1 minute and 36 seconds.
Beautiful. Now again, yeah, like Alex has said, they're topping off propellants now. They're going to be clearing out those propellant lines on the Strongback. The reason you want to clean those out is because you're about to have a rocket launch next to them. You do not want anything flammable or explosive inside your hardware because SpaceX wants to refurbish and turn around this hardware as quick as they possibly can. If you have a fire on your Strongback or equipment damage, that lowers your turnaround speed. So that may mean you have to do a day delay or a few days delay. So get all your propellant out of your Strongback, make the area safe and not explosive, and it'll really help you in the future. Now we're going below T-minus 1 minute, so the vehicle is now pressurizing itself for flight. The flight computers have taken over, and in a few seconds we will get the final go for launch from the launch director. I love seeing that crew tower there. It's so mind-numbing how quickly that was built, and now it's just here. I love seeing that. All right, we're coming up on T-minus 30 seconds here until liftoff.
And we are go for launch.
Beautiful. Now, because you're going to hear some really loud launch audio here coming in about 20 seconds, we're going to be quiet as soon as the audio comes in. We will join you past max Q or whenever the audio begins to die down. So just sit back, relax, and enjoy some beautiful sounds of Falcon 9 carrying 2 SES O3b mPOWER satellites to medium Earth orbit. Going past T-minus 10 seconds here. Pad deluge is activated. We have engine ignition and liftoff of Falcon 9, carrying the 3rd pair of O3b mPOWER satellites to medium Earth transfer orbit. Vehicles cleared the tower. It's going to begin to pitch down range, right on into the clouds. Oh, and out of the clouds. Stand by for the launch audio, and we will see you on the other side. All right, and we are at team plus 1 minute and 23 seconds into today's flight. We have passed through max Q, which is a period of maximum aerodynamic pressure. We hope you enjoyed those launch audio that we had there from Max out in the field. It was a pretty overcast day, so we didn't get too much of a ground track there, but we were happy to see the rocket through some of those clouds. Now we're getting up into T plus 2 minutes into the flight. In about
there we
30
go.
seconds. Oh, beautiful. We can see it peeking through some clouds right there. We're about 25 seconds away from the main engines cutting off. Those 9 first stage engines are going to shut down. They'll coast for a few seconds. We will have stage separation followed by second stage engine ignition. It'll be very rapid turnaround, so keep your eyes peeled for that. And some great onboard shots today showing the clouded over East Coast and Atlantic Ocean there. Vehicle is about halfway to space, just passing 50 kilometers in altitude. Once again, coming up on main engine cutoff here. And there we have it. Main engine cutoff. The 9 first stage Merlin engines have shut down. We're going to stand by for stage separation, followed by ignition of the single Merlin vacuum engine on the second stage. And we can see that happening right there. Now, the first stage is going to kind of keep itself oriented, begin to slowly flip around. The first stage is going to be landing downrange on SpaceX's drone ship, a shortfall of Gravitas. That's going to be another downrange landing for this booster on its 9th flight. You see the grid fins beginning to deploy there.
That was
Now,
a
the
nice launch.
It really was. It was nice to see it kind of peek through the clouds a little bit here and there. It kind of gave it some nice, depth to it, I guess you could say.
It's interesting because it was cloudy, but also like blue skies in between. It's really interesting
Yeah.
when that thing happens.
Yep, it's really beautiful out there in Florida for a launch. I highly recommend, if you have the ability and the time, check out a launch from Florida. You will never forget it. It is unbelievable. We got a shot there of the payload adapter. We have payload fairing separation as well. Now those 2 fairings are going to re-enter the atmosphere and parachute down into the Atlantic Ocean. The SpaceX ship Bob is out there to recover the 2 of those fairings and bring them back for another flight. Unfortunately, SpaceX is not super public and transparent on the exact timeline of fairing reflights, so we don't know exactly what missions those fairings have flown on, but judging by their sootiness, they've probably flown to space a few times. And again, Alex, while we have a second, what is the aim of fairing refurbishment? Is it just that it takes a lot of money to make those fairings? They're saving money with it, or is it to help with production? What is kind of the goal there of fairing refurbishment?
Well, it's a bit of everything, right? Because if you can reuse them, not only you save money, you also don't need to produce a new one. So the more that you reuse them, the less that you have to produce. And that means if the time that it takes for you to produce them is more than the time that it takes for you to refurbish them, that means that you can basically reuse them faster than you can produce them. I think that was a mouthful, but what I'm trying to say is that you can fly more often. That's the bottom line of here, right? That you can fly more often instead of producing new ones. And frankly, that's a really good bonus of recovering vehicles. It's not just the savings in money, but also the fact that you can launch more often. So if you can launch more often, you can get more revenue from those launches. And that's good. You can get more money. That's, yeah.
I mean, more money, more better, as Jack would say.
Exactly.
But while SpaceX has kind of pioneered fairing refurbishment and recovery, they're not the only company pursuing it, right, Alex? There's a certain other company bringing a very large rocket onto the scene that seems to be doing some fairing recovery tests. And who is that, Alex?
Yeah, that is Blue Origin. It looks like they might be looking at reusing the New Glenn fairings. Frankly, I'm surprised that no one has tried other than that Blue Origin, because seeing how easy, quote unquote, easy for Falcon 9 is, where you just put a few thrusters on it and a parachute and just drop it in the ocean, that it's quite easy compared to, you know, booster landings where you have to precisely, just like we're seeing in about 2 or 3 minutes, we're going to see the booster going through transonic speeds and having to, you know, target a pinpoint landing on a drone ship 685 kilometers downrange. That is quite complicated in terms of, you know, propulsion, guidance, multiple things, right? Where fairing recovery seems to be much easier in that sense.
Yeah, and I know that ULA has looked into it as well for Vulcan. And actually, real quick, we'll pause that conversation because we're about to see stage 1 entry burn. That's going to ignite 1, then 3 of the first stage engines just to slow the vehicle down, but also to use that engine exhaust as a sort of makeshift heat shield against atmospheric reentry. It's a method called supersonic retropropulsion. Don't worry, there's not going to be a quiz. You don't need to remember that. But it's a method to basically use your engine exhaust as a heat shield against atmospheric reentry heating. It's a very cool method that Falcon 9 has really pioneered based off of NASA studies. And it is the last burn before the landing burn. And we've seen shut off right there. Now, as
I'm
the vehicle gets...
seeing.
Go ahead,
Oh, go
Alex.
ahead. Go ahead. No, go ahead.
I was going to say, as the vehicle gets lower in the atmosphere, you'll begin to see those grid fins really begin to take over maneuvering there. You can see the RCS thrusters kind of giving a little push here and there, but they're beginning to get not as powerful as you get lower in the atmosphere. And also keep an eye out on those grid fins. We may see some really nice transonic Mach effects coming off of those grid fins. Some little streaks of wind and I don't know the exact term, but atmospheric effects coming off of those. So keep an eye out on those. And what were you going to say before, Alex?
Yeah, no, well, that we had a cloudy launch. It seems like might be a bit of a cloudy landing as well here, because it just
Yeah.
passed through some upper level clouds, the booster. But it appears that, usually when there's clouds and humidity and everything, that strengthens the sound of the vehicle. So we see people in the back channels already being like, "Oh my God, this is so loud."
That's amazing.
There we
And
go. We have
we're going to
Seco.
see, yep, perfect. Seco, second stage engine cutoff. So the second stage is now in a low Earth parking orbit. It's going to reignite in the coming minutes. But right now, we're going to be focusing on first stage coming down through the atmosphere. Now, again, the stage is landing in the Atlantic Ocean. It's going to target a pinpoint landing on the drone ship, a Shortfall of Gravitas, which is SpaceX's newest addition to their fleet. And again, it's not too uncommon to see some video cutouts here. Again, this is live video from a moving rocket going almost Mach 1. Oh, look at those clouds there. Got some live drone ship views here.
Oh, look at that.
What a pinpoint landing there.
That's
That
the
is the
ninth landing
ninth.
for that booster.
You took the words right out of my mouth, Alex.
We're thinking the same.
Exactly. You're very statistic, and I really like that. There we go. Another landing for this booster, a successful 9th launch for this vehicle. Now, the second stage is in a parking orbit. You can see it right there. Got some beautiful shots of what's about to be an orbital sunset. You also see the payload adapter. Alex, I love how the payload adapter kind of flares out, so we can see absolutely nothing from this. Beautiful. Some great shots
Those views
there.
are really, really great. But yeah, you wanted stats. The landing was the 171st in a row, as I was mentioning before, since the last landing failure. And this was also SpaceX's 84th launch of the year. Yeah, 84th, counting Starship, obviously. 83rd for the whole Falcon fleet. So that's a nice stat, because they're getting close to 100 this year.
That's incredible. And so with that milestone, Alex, are we on track, do you think, to meet the 100 launches per year? Or are we going to be a little short of that right now?
Well, you know what? I have a spreadsheet for that.
Of course you do. That's why I asked you.
and so the other day yesterday with the transporter mission, I had my spreadsheet. I have a thing that basically calculates basically how many they will be able to do if they keep the current trend and current cadence. And so I had 96 as the potential. I'm just updating mine right now with this launch, and it's showing 97. That is the first time in this year that I see they might be on track for 96 and 97. So that is a lot of launches, but they're very close.
I mean, even 97, even though that's not 100, but that is still an incredible number for one company. Like, that is the stats for a whole developed country. SpaceX is the majority of launches from the US, and I think probably the majority of launches from the world in terms of per company. It's incredible to see the progress that they've made here with Falcon, and that it continues to speed up, and that next year will be even better. Like, I have no doubts next year they'll surpass. They will surpass 100, maybe 120 launches. It's crazy to see. But on that note, and after this launch of O3b mPOWER, we're going to call this live stream quits here. We want to thank you, of course, all for watching, everyone for sending in their support. Even hitting that like button is an immense amount of support, and we appreciate anyone and everyone who tuned into the stream today. Always glad to have you here for another Falcon 9 launch, and it wasn't a Starlink launch, so little cause for celebration there. But of course, I want to thank everyone who was here alongside me in the stream today. Alex, you are our Falcon 9 expert. Thank you once again for showing up to basically every stream this year that we've had for Falcon 9.
It was a pleasure, and definitely look out for the next launch, because that is a special one. That is the launch. It's a Starlink. The next launch is a Starlink. So
I cannot wait.
Tune into that one, because it's actually I think it's about maybe 14 hours before the supposedly Starship launch next Friday. So yeah, next Thursday, that's the next launch. Another Starlink as well. So we'll see.
Great. We're looking forward to that. And we also had in the background 2 operators, Patrick and Gav. Thank you to the both of you for pushing the buttons, pulling the levers, and keeping the stream afloat. And of course, we had Max Evans providing us some amazing tracking shots and pad shots today of the launch. So thank you to Max for that. And of course, I've been your host, Ian Atkinson, for today's live stream today. Thank you once again for tuning in. We appreciate all of you watching, and we will see you on the next live stream. Have a good weekend, everyone.
And here we go. We have liftoff.
Propulsion continues to be nominal.
Our 68 chamber pressure looks good.
Doubling up. Roger, roll, Atlantic.
Water towers fly! Yes! Tango down to nominal.
Fighting downside ST off. Bring in ST off. Off. It's orange!
Oh my god! Oh my god!
Decollage. Put that in the big bag,
343 unfolds to go.
Indeed.
We rise together back to the moon and beyond.
This methane will be igniting in the flare, correct?